Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Again, for a long time I was not recording any tutorials or any video. So I just wanted to actually start with learning about the basics of the Dart programming language. Uh, like keeping the story for short, I was actually interested in the world. As we know, it is changing. The AI and the machine learning and the artificial intelligence is basically taking over all of the programming jobs and the market is basically completely almost saturated. And I believe that the AI jobs and the jobs related to artificial intelligence will increase, and the jobs related to the let's say like low-level programming and the operating system related programming jobs will basically be done by AI, as well as like marketing, kind of like search engine optimization thing, like with the increase of the popularity of the AI tools, the jobs related to the IT side of the market will basically be done by the artificial intelligence, and that's pretty much is going to be the norm in a couple of months. Even the programmers, as Mark Zuckerberg said in the Joe Rogan interview I was listening a couple of weeks ago, he also told about the change, about the upcoming change, when they will basically have mid-level programmers, uh, like they will basically train their own models to replace their own mid-level, even their mid-level programmers. So that's going to be a tough time for programmers in the future, that's for sure. But I believe that the AI and the machine learning, especially when we improve ourselves in this field, I think there's going to be really new jobs in this market, uh, like remote jobs or the jobs on site. There's always going to be I think there's always going to be an opportunity there. And anyways, I was thinking about like doing an app in Flutter, and since the Dart is kind of like a programming language for building like iOS or Android apps, uh, I actually need to learn Flutter, and I don't have any experience with the Flutter yet. So I just want to actually take a quick look at the Dart language. Let's learn about the basics of the Dart language together, so that I can actually move on with building some mobile apps and integrate them with the AI or the LLM tools to generate apps, basically to create some apps that are useful. So let's start a folder. Let's create a folder, make directory, Dart tutorial, change directory here, and start our NeoVim here. I used NeoVim with the Ember theme for a while. I was using the Matrix theme, but I was not feeling bad. Like I was not feeling good with this Matrix theme. It was taking too much. Like my eyesight uh, was affected by it in a bad way. So let's start our first program. Touch hello world .dart. I just want to tell you something. Actually, you can see if Dart is installed. Where's the internet? Oh, okay. Dart install. You can basically install Dart from. There must be Dart install Ubuntu. There's supposed to be a link over here. Yeah, you can actually install every library of the Dart programming language with the sudo apt-get install libdart6 all dev command. Also, you can get the core library by typing by sudo apt-get install library dart6 development. Anyways, when you make sure that you have the Dart, you can check the version. As you can see, I have the Dart programming language. We can start with the basics. So for instance, Dart programming language gives the C, C++, Python vibe. That's for sure. It's probably like it's much more like it's an object-oriented programming. It's the web-based language, and like let's see, like it's a programming language to build apps for many platforms like Android, iOS, web, desktop. It's client optimized, means optimized for crafting a beautiful user interface and high quality experiences. It's an open source, object oriented programming language. It can compile to either native code or JavaScript. It offers modern programming features like null safety, which is obviously a problem in C and other low-level programming languages, and asynchronous programming. You can even use Dart for servers and backend. Dart is the language and the Flutter is the framework. And let's look at the basic Dart program. We can just print hello world. We can execute and we can run the program by hello world Dart. In Dart we also have, it's better to have a command line. It's better to have some comments here. So for instance, we have the var, we have the num, we have int. Copilot is already suggesting. These are basic data types of the Dart programming language. So for example, let's say we have a var name, let's say John, print this name, let's say hello world Dart. As you can see, John is printed, and we can use the var keyword for the variables. Also, we can actually check for example, the variables of var variables are basically num. This stands for integers and double variables. Var basically determines. We can also actually enable determines the type of the variable. It's usually, if you don't have a dynamic keyword, it's usually statically typed, so it checks the type of the variable in compile time. And for instance, it's actually type variable name, and which is a value, is the value, type of the variable, the name of the variable, and the value that we are actually initializing. So let's keep it that way. String type, we have, let's say my name is Khan, or you can basically have an address, string address somewhere in the planet. Also, we can have the age here, for example, let's say 20. Here, num is basically an int, but you can also have, for instance, height, let's say 1 meter and 80 centimeter. Here it assumes to be a double, and then you can have a boolean variable, is student or not, As you can see, it's initialized with true, but it can be false, etc. The constants, as you can see, we can let's print them. Name is, we use the $sign to describe about the variable name, close the double quotes and close the parentheses. Print, let's yank it, address, address is address, age is age, copy is already suggesting some changes, height is height, student is student. The dollar sign is when we want to check out, then we want to see, when we want to refer to the variable, and we can compile this Dart program. Name is Khan, address somewhere in the planet, age is 20, which is not correct actually. Height is 1.80 centimeter, and the students, which is true, but actually it's false. Anyways, it doesn't matter. And the constant, for example, when we have a const variable, like let's say const pi, which is 3.14, but when you actually try to change this variable by, let's say you want to make it 3.28 or 3.15, which I remember when I was going to university, we were assumed to sometimes take pi as 3.15 for a reason, and then you can actually print this pi, but this will issue an error, we can see, because we try to assign to the variable pi another value which is already being initialized with a const keyword, which this will create an error. We also have the I also wanna show that let's comment this part out so that we can actually use the main method. We can still use the main method. There's also the variable keyword. Let's say we have a surname John Doe. Naming convention. Yeah, I mean, in Dart, the naming convention is preferred to be like this camel case, like lower camel case, starting with the lower characters and then becoming an uppercase character. And the data types in Dart programming language. Let's create another file. Let's say touch data types .dart. I mean, it's pretty much the same with, it's pretty close with Java and C++, except the runes, the numbers, strings, booleans, lists, maps, sets, and runes. So we have numbers, strings, booleans, we have lists, maps, sets, runes, null, whatever. And for instance, let's start. For example, let's look at the we can actually have an int variable num1, which is 10, let's say, or a double num2, which is 25.8, whatever. We can have a num type num3, 12.4, or num type num4, which is 12, let's say. We can have a num type sum, which is the sum of all these variables. And then we can print them one by one. Num1 is $, num1, num2 is num2, num3 is num3, num4 is num4. So we can use these methods. Also, we can see the sum, data, data types. Oh, I was supposed to use Dart here. That was a spelling problem. Num1 is 10, num2 is 25.8, 12.4, and 12. So, I mean, there are also other methods that we can actually use on the numbers. There are some methods. Let's first see the methods and then use these methods in our program. We have the toString method, on numbers, or we have I know we have the toString or checking toString method. toString as fixed, it suggests Copilot. We can also call the runtime type property on the variables to check their type. I mean their data type on runtime, whether they are string, they're int or double, etc. And we have so let's go one by one. And we have some operators working on the operands. We have the difference from the other programming languages. We have this is an integer division, but we have a default division. And for instance, we can where is that file? Yeah, here. We can actually, let's say, string 1. My name is Khan. And we can have a string 2. My surname is blah blah blah, whatever. We can print these strings since they are variable. String 1 is asterisk string 1. String 2 is asterisk string 2. Dart, data types, Dart. String 1 is my name is Khan. String 2 is my surname is blah blah blah. We can also use some string concatenation as well on the strings. For instance, booleans lists. I'm just checking concatenation on strings. I mean, basically, let's say we can have a string 3. Yeah, we can use string 1 plus, we can concatenate the strings easily, and then we can print this string 3. That's what I was actually referring. Or this can also be done with one statement inside print. My string 1 plus string 1 is string 1, right? And then put a space, and string 2 is string 2. Undefined name, string 1. Oh yes, because of this, As you can see, string 1 is my name, string 1 is my name is Khan, string 2 is my surname is blah blah blah. That also works. There are some methods which we can use. For instance, I mean, as you can see, like the same with the new line character, new line tab character, and yeah, we have some methods, string to int, which is string to int, converting string value to an integer value, also converting, let's say converting a string to an integer value, string to an integer value. So you have a string first, string value, it doesn't matter, 1 2 3, and then let's see the type of it. Print type of this variable is on this string str value. You need to call runtime type, and then here you can see type is string. Now we need to convert it to an integer value. It's going to be return an integer, so integer value, and since it's going to return an integer value, we need to, on the integer, we need to call parse method on the string. On the string we call the parse method for an integer, and then we print it with value of int value is int value, and the type, we can check the type of it as well here. The type of this variable is str int value. Now it's the name of the variable is changed, int value, runtime type, data types, dart data types at dart. As you can see now, type of the variable became int. It was a string, the value of the integer int value became 123, and then the type of the variable is int now. Let's converting string to double in dart. So we converted string to an int on the string. We called int parse method. Now we will convert string to double. Now on the string we will call doubles parse value, of course. This function is going to take a string. Now let's call it. Let's comment this part out. And now we need to call, let's say we have a string while 1.25, let's say, and then print. Let's check the type first. Type of while is, on while we will call runtime type, and then we need to convert it to double, which is going to return a double value, of course. It's going to take a double value, and then in the for the double we will call parse method on this string. Now we can print the string. Let's print the string. Value of double val is double val, and now check the runtime type. Dart data types dot dart. First it was a string, and the value of this double val, this double value became 1.25, and then the type of val became a double. Int to string is basically the same. It was string to int, int to string. Now it's going to be string, so we need to call actually inside for string. We need to call to string method. We want an int, so for int we call the parse method. Now we want a value to be a string, so on the value it was on the string because we wanted to change the string. Now we want to change the value. On the value we will call toString method. So let's do it. I'm just commenting it out, except like I'm just commenting it out, and I'm not opening a new file. I will open a new file for the next chapter. So let's look converting int to string. I think we converted into string. No, we didn't. So let's have a string. Let's have an int and then make it a string. Int, let's say num, which is, let's say 10. Yeah, it's a good thing. And then the type of num is, now on this num we can call the runtime type. And we want a string, which is str, and on the num we call the toString method. And now the type of str is str runtime type, and then the value of str is str. As you can see, it was an int, now it's a string, and the value of the string is 10. Double to int, we want an integer, so return type int, int method parse, double whiles string. First we will make this double file to string, and then we will make it an integer. But we can also actually have a double value, double my double, let's say 10.01, it doesn't matter, 11.01, whatever. And then int num2, we want an integer value, and on the double we want an integer value. On the my double, because we will make a change on this variable, on the my double we will call the toInt method because we want it to be an integer. On the double variable we call an integer method. We call a method to make it an integer, and then we print it. The value of num1 is num1. Its type is num1.runtime type, and then close the curly brackets. And it's also the same for num2. So I want to do like that. There was a problem here. There's no such a thing as num1. It's basically my double. I overlooked. As you can see, the value of num1 is 11.01. Its type is double, and then num2 became 11, and its type is of int type. Booleans are basically the same. There's no much difference there. Sets, let's open touch data types start, let's say dot data. lists, sets, maps, and so let's start with these ones first. So for instance, we can have a list of string, let's say names. Since it's a list, let's say John, Stewart, Riley, whatever. We can print these names. When you print like this, it's going to print data type start. It will print a list of strings, but you can also index them. It's pretty normal to index them. The first element is the $. Oh, my brain basically stopped. Yeah, it's here. Yeah, this one. The names, it's 0 indexed, and it's here. Second and third, second and third element. John, Stewart, Riley. List index always starts with 0. Here name 0 is, as you can see, John, Stewart, and Riley. The sets are 0 indexed. By the way, I was checking why the syntax is not working properly. It's a data file now. I need to change the name of the file. Data type start. It's a data file. I didn't really see. Let's make it data types start dot dart. Now it's gonna probably work. As you can see, even the type of the file is not showing up in my Neowin setup. Now it's became a Dart file, so the comments and everything are lighting up. I didn't see them first. So let's say we have a set of strings, weekdays, and they are initialized with like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. Sometimes I open Copilot, but I don't know why Copilot is not working. It's really helps with code compilation. Yeah. I don't use for much like more complex things for now, but for this lesson I just want to use the Copilot properly. We can actually print the weekdays. It's going to print a set of, oops, well, it messed up. It messes up with the data thing. I don't know why. Data types start dart. As you can see, it prints out a set of days. But it's also we can actually index them. Like for instance, we can index the first day of the week, first day, the second day, third day, oops, fourth day, fifth day, sixth, seventh day, made something wrong. Ah, yeah, in the set we don't have the square brackets in the set method. It's we can use in the list method. In the list method we can use the square brackets, but in the set method curly brackets are not defined. I made a mistake over here, so let's delete. And we have the at method Copilot is suggesting. First element is on the weekdays. Weekdays we can call element at method, and the 0 returns the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, etc. Let's see. And let's see. Yeah, as you can see, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So now we can check the maps. Maps. Almost the same with my. It's almost the same with C++. For example, for a map that maps from string to a string, we can use this format, my details, which maps from a name, for instance, to a name, my name, and my address to my address. It's here somewhere in the planet. And father name, I hope he doesn't know, John. It's pretty much the same with my dad's name, but let's make it nameless. And so basically maps are initialized with this format. Let's copy it from here. Let's yank from here. And print my details, let's say name field. My details name field. We can actually, why it's not name? What's wrong? Oh yeah, my details name. I don't know the reason, but my NeoVim setup sometimes kind of like works a bit slow. Maybe my laptop or some there's a problem, but sometimes it doesn't work properly. So let's see the name field, Dart. Let's clean here. Where is the problem? Oh yeah, as you can see the name field shows up. You can say others, address, father name, etc. It shows all of them. We have a var keyword, which is pretty useful. Automatically finds a data type. It's in compile time, but still, like var name, Khan, for instance, it actually automatically knows it's a string. Age, it's an int. And runes, also there's a runes thing. It's basically returns a Unicode of a value. You have a string with a name. Let's make these bigger A. When you call on the name runes method, when you call the runes of it, of the name, as you can see, 6565 for the uppercase A's, 107 for the lowercase K, and then N for the 110. These are the UTF-16 probably, UTF-16 or what, I don't remember actually, but I think it's the UTF-16 value of the characters. And we checked the runtime type already. Runtime type is very useful to check the type of the variables. And we also have it's in programming languages. Dart is basically, Dart is actually optionally typed language because it can be statically typed language like C or C++, but it can also be a dynamically typed language by using the dynamic keyword. And let's see them as well. For example, let's say var a variable, let's say, which is 50. Now this is assumed to be an int. Assumed to be an int. Now when you initialize this a variable with hello world, now this will throw an error. This will give an error. We can actually see it. We can print this. It's gonna give an error, as you can see here. A value of type string can't be assigned to a variable of type int because it's already been initialized as an int. But with the dynamic keyword, we use the var. But if you use the dynamic here, now this variable is actually the type of this variable can change. So now the type of this variable, now this is not going to throw an error, as you can see. So this is the dynamic part of the Dart programming language. Comments are almost the same basically. The one line comment with the two double slash for commenting out, for example, this part you can use slash asterisk opening, asterisk slash closing. Operators in Dart, also the same, but there is one operator I already actually, not here, I think it's in the data types or hello world. Here somewhere I remember here somewhere I talked about it. Yes, operators, as you can see. Let's get this line here. In Dart, there's an integer division, and the default division is basically a division with the floating point characters on the double variables. So for instance, let's say we have a double A, which is 10, double B, which is 20, or let's say 20 and then 3. When we call print, when we call this one, which is not a default, which is an integer division, we are supposed to have a 0.6, but this is not going to give us 0.6. It's possibly it will give us 6. This is going to give us 0. This will want to give us 0.66. It's the data types, right? As you can see, 0 and 0.66. And this assumes to be an int result. This assumes to be a floating point result, let's say. But when we call them on an integer, let's say, when we call on an integer, now when we call this on an integer, let's see what's happening. It's basically the same. And user input, for user input dot dart. I was almost closing the editor. So we need to import for user input. We need to import from the import Dart input output output. So from the package import Dart input output, and in the main method, let's say you want to get the username. Username is, or give us your username. Now we want to get the username from the user. This is going to be a string, and it's going to be a username. And standard input read line sync method is called. And then we can actually print this username. Dart user input. Because I forgot to import it. Import Dart input output. Let's use it now. Give us your username. Oops. Let's Khan, let's say your username is Khan, as you can see. We can get an integer as well. Then all of the method, instead of getting a string, we need to get a value. Give us a value. Give us a value. And now instead of string, we will basically get an integer. Value. Now the parse method is going to be used on a string, on the string that we are putting inside the standard input. And then this is going to be on this int type, we will call the parse method, because we want the parse. We want to parse this. We want to parse this given string, and we want to show the value 5, and now we can print this 5. And we can also use the floating point as well. Let's yank this part. Give us a floating value. Now what you're going to take, you'll get a double, of course. Here you need to get a double value. Now on the double, it's going to be double parse on the value, and then we will print it. Let's say 7.8, and your value is 7.8. There are some string manipulations. Let's open another file. Touch string manipulation .dart. There are a lot of methods that we can use on strings. So let's see those methods. So basically, for strings, there are a lot of methods. I will get all of them. For the strings, we can use the to lowercase, to uppercase, to trim, compare to, replace all, split, to string, substring, code unit methods. Also, there are some properties that we can check for the strings. Those properties, for instance, code units returns the UTF-16 value of the code units of the string. We have the isEmpty method, isEmpty function, isNotEmpty function, and the length. To lowercase makes all of them lowercase, to uppercase, trim, trims the leading and the trailing white spaces. Compare to compares this object to another. It returns 0 if they are equal, returns 1 if the first string is greater than the second string, and the -1 in the other way around. Replaces the string that match a pattern with a given value. Split splits a string with a specified delimiter. ToString method returns a string representation of an object, of this object. So returns a string representation of an object, makes a string basically. The substring is basically taking a substring of a string called unit at, returns the 16-bit UTF-16 code unit at a given index. So let's see. So I already showed, I think, the concatenation in Dart language, but you can basically, like, you have a string, first string, hello, and then we have a second string, world, and we can basically concatenate them, str plus, right? But we can actually fstr plus this fstr, and then plus, right? One plus is enough, and then the second one. So this basically will give us the same thing. Oops, I opened a new touch file. What I am doing, the file has been changed since reading it. You really want to write to it. Yes. Okay. Dart string manipulation .dart fstr hello world. Because of this text, let's take it out. So I mean, basically we can concatenate it. That's the whole point. So we can actually have a string real str. Let's say this is the whole thing that this returns. And then we can call actually all of these methods. We can call the code unit, isEmpty, notEmpty, all of these methods, print, real str. Let's say we can call to uppercase method, to lowercase method, the trim method, even if we don't have the trailing and the up to say, even if we don't have the trailing and the leading white spaces, compare to method, replace all. We can replace the hello with the hi. So basically we can call all of these methods. We can use these functions as well. Code units, isEmpty, notEmpty, print. This splits. I don't want to use this method. Real str dot code units. Code units, which is actually not called like that, but code units. I think it's the code units. Yeah, it's the yeah. They're all uppercase. The lowercase trim method, it doesn't work because there's no white spaces in the beginning and in the end. This is the compare method with the hello. It returns 1. We are bigger than the compared value. Hi world, and replace all. Replace the hello with the hi, and then code units. As you can see, they're ASCII numbers. And so basically all of these methods I talked about for the string operations. There are some questions, there are some practice questions, but I don't want to actually I don't want to show them in this tutorial. So thank you for watching my video. See you on the next one. Thank you. Bye bye.